All right. Thank you everyone for coming out today to really see the future of water here in Southern California. And I want to thank you, Governor Newsom and Director Namath, for joining us today. I know that Metropolitan's General Manager Adele Hodge-Khalil and our board chairwoman Gloria Gray are thrilled that you're taking the time to learn more about this transformative opportunity for our region and for our state. The project behind us is how we are harnessing innovation to ensure our communities will have a reliable water supply in the face of a changing climate. Right now, we have a demonstration facility for our regional recycle water program. Scientists and engineers are working to ensure that we have the most effective process possible to take cleaned wastewater and further purify it to meet the highest water quality standards. Once approved by regulators, this innovative purification process could be used throughout California and even applied around the globe, potentially making it a catalyst for investment here in the region. But every day of this drought is a reminder that we need to get a full-scale facility built and operating as quickly as possible. As you all are aware, this drought has hit Southern California's water supplies hard. We are experiencing conditions that we've never seen before, and we've had to respond with actions that we've never taken before, requiring some communities to reduce outdoor watering to just 1 day a week or the equivalent. We need the help of Southern Californians to immediately reduce their water use to get through this emergency. You've heard the statistics. The driest 3 years on record, the driest January, February, and March on record. And all that has resulted in the lowest deliveries ever from the State Water Project, which is typically a source of about 30% of the water that's used here in Southern California. This is climate change. Our recent response of urgently reducing demands through restrictions will get us through this immediate crisis, but it isn't a long-term solution. The real, sustainable solution lies in large-scale investments, developing local water supplies, storage, and water efficiency. Investments like this recycled water program. The full-scale facility will produce 150 million gallons of water every day, enough to serve more than 500,000 homes, making it one of the largest purification facilities in the world. And this project won't just help Southern California, it'll help the entire state by reducing our reliance on the State Water Project water, and it'll help the entire Southwest by reducing our reliance on Colorado River water. That's why Arizona and Nevada are partnered with us in planning for the project. They recognize its national value. Our federal partners are increasingly recognizing that also. And we're grateful to have Governor Newsom and other state leaders here to learn about this. Investment from the state in this project is also critical in moving it forward quickly. Metropolitan and the sanitation districts have been working hard for actually more than a decade to bring this drought-proof, climate-resilient supply to fruition. And it's time we get there. Now I'd like to introduce our partner in making this vision a reality. Please welcome Mr. Robert Ferrante, General Manager of the LA County Sanitation Districts.
Thank you. Thank you, Devin. As Devin mentioned, I'm Robert Ferrante. I'm the Chief Engineer and General Manager for the Los Angeles County Sanitation Districts. And on behalf of our directors, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Joint Water Pollution Control Plant. The districts, if you do not know, we manage wastewater, solid waste, and storm water for over 5.5 million people in 78 cities within Los Angeles County. And we have a simple mission: to convert waste into resources. Today we're going to talk about wastewater. But before we do, I want to mention some other things that we do here. The incoming wastewater to this treatment plant is converted to renewable green energy that powers not only the plant, but we export that out to the grid as well. This facility also, in support of our local cities in the county, diverts up to 300 tons of food waste a day and converts that food waste into renewable natural gas that's used in vehicles, and you might have passed the fueling station on your way into the plant today. And finally, the nutrients from the wastewater are converted, are recycled into compost and used as fertilizer. All of these things not only displace fossil fuel production and use, but also obviously lower greenhouse gas emissions for the state. So our next goal, as Devin mentioned, is to recycle the water from this plant. This is our largest plant. All of our other plants have recycled water systems. It's been more challenging at this location, not only because of the size, but now we're ready with the technologies that the governor just saw, and we're more than capable of putting out recycled water, not only to replenish groundwater basins, but also for drinking water. It was clear to us, though, from the start that we needed a very strong partner, and we're very excited to be working with the Metropolitan Water District on producing a potential new source of water for Southern California. And we appreciate that the governor and the state, and through his leadership, recognize the importance of recycled water as one of the solutions to mitigating the drought. So this plant truly is a resource recovery facility, as I've mentioned. And along with this project, it can really serve as a model moving forward for how to build a sustainable California by creating a circular economy for products and creating them in a green way with good green jobs. With that, I want to thank everybody for being here, and I'd like to introduce Carla Namath. She's the director of the Department of Water Resources for the state of California. Thanks.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you all to highlight this incredibly innovative partnership here in Southern California. I'm Carla Namath, the director of the California Department of Water Resources. We are the water planner for the state of California. We are also the owner-operator of the State Water Project, which moves water from the Sierra Nevada to all parts of California and serves 27 million Californians. Here in the Southland, it serves 19 million Californians, but we are experiencing an extreme drought. There is a growing body of evidence that, in fact, this drought is a continuation of the drought in 2012, 13 and 14 and 15. So we are starting to see these decadal-long dry periods that are going to challenge our ability to manage water supplies for people, for farms, and for the environment. So all Californians need to heed the call to conserve. Mr. Upadhyay talked about the intense dry conditions in 3 dry years in a row. We had the driest January, February, March on record. And when I say driest, we beat the previous record by a long shot. The previous record had been about 15 inches of precipitation. This year we had 5.6. So we can see these extreme conditions really bearing down on California. But Californians are good at conserving water, and Californians need hope that all of us are doing the things we need to do to plan for a climate-resilient water future. And I can think of no better project here in the Southland that exemplifies the partnerships and the innovation that it will take all of us to roll up our sleeves and get this work done so that we can continue to have the wonderful, prosperous, biodiverse California that we all love so dearly. So my main message to everyone is conserve that water. We need it. We will need it next year, and please do your part. With that, I have the honor to introduce Mayor Davis.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'm going to ditto everything that you said. I'm going to make sure my speech is short. But I just want to let you know how excited I am as the mayor of this great city of Carson to have this facility located in our city. This project is going to put the city of Carson on the map. We are the best kept secret in the South Bay, and I'm always proud to say that we are the jewel of the South Bay. I'm very supportive of this project. I've had the opportunity to meet with all the players, and we've had several meetings, and this is just something that we need in the South Bay and in California itself. So we want to be a good partner. and work with the Sanitation District, the Metropolitan Water District, and I am confident that they will find a way to build this facility with the least amount of impact on the residents here in the city of Carson. I'm also looking for this project to bring good jobs to the South Bay, and also the economic development that will come with this project. So last, I'd like to thank the governor for taking the time from his busy schedule to come out and support this project. We're very supportive of it, and we want to work very closely with all the key players here that's making this project a reality. And I am sure within the next 10 to 15 years, this project will be up and running, and we will all be the better for having it here. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you a friend and your friend, our Senator Steve Bradford.
Thank you, Mayor, and good afternoon. I want to welcome all of you, as well as the governor, to the 35th Senate District where we find ourselves today. Water, water, everywhere. Water, water, not a drop to spare. As we're all aware, California is currently experiencing a severe drought conditions, and due to climate change, it's only getting worse. California receives 75% of its rain and snow in watersheds north of Sacramento. However, 80% of California's water demands comes from 2/3 of Southern California in this state. According to researchers at the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory, by 2024, our Sierra snowpack could disappear altogether. The Sierras simply supply 30% of California's water. California economy and culture has been shaped by the scarcity of water. We must all be all hands on deck in California to combat drought, recycle and conserve water, and implement policies that further water conservation goals. I'm doing my part this year by authoring a piece of legislation. It's SB 1469 with the Public Utilities Commission that utilizes a rulemaking process referred to as decoupling to promote water conservation. Decoupling water usage from the cost of infrastructure will result in equitable rate structures where those who use more water will pay more. It also enables water suppliers to maintain robust, save our water conservation programs and eliminate incentives to profit by selling more water. This will help us meet our water conservation objectives and will also benefit customers by keeping costs low. With warming temperatures, shrinking snowpacks, shorter wet seasons, volatile precipitation, and rising seas, we must recognize that conservation alone will not solve this problem. Southern California uses less water today than we did 30 years ago with more people. Not just in California, but the entire western United States faces the driest conditions in history, a mega drought that requires significant action. We need to promote not only conservation, but innovative technology such as this recycling plant and desalination efforts throughout California. All of the water on Earth, 97.5 is salt water, with only 2.5% being fresh water. We need to use recycled energy sources for freshwater production as well. As a member of the LA County delegation, I'm supporting the Los Angeles County Sanitation District's budget request for the regional recycling program, a joint project being undertaken by the Sanitation District and the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. This project is one of the few sources of new water available as we look for ways to address both the current drought and our need for long-term water supply and climate resiliency. This project will be the largest potable reuse project in the United States. The Los Angeles County Sanitation District, where we find ourselves today, focuses on converting waste into resources like recycled water, energy, and recycled materials. Collectively, the Sanitation District treats about 400 million gallons of water per day. Approximately 81 megawatts of electricity are created in the Sanitation District's water waste and solid waste operations. Over the last 50 years, the Sanitation District has been the nation's largest producer of recycled water. We are here today because this serves as a model of what our state and nation can do. Last year, we committed $5.2 billion to ensure water security in California for Californians. Given the intensification of drought, our governor is proposing an additional $2 billion for near and long-term actions. Our communities need these resources, and the additional $2 billion will allow these funds to be utilized for innovative solutions to ramp up storage while also doubling down on water recycling and other conservation projects. On top of these historic investments, Governor Newsom has taken action to allow local water districts to implement regulations based on local conditions, a critical step in the right direction. We're all here gathered here today. We need to collectively cut back on our waste and water usage and conserve. With that, I am proud to introduce someone who really needs no introduction, a true warrior, a true champion on all things important to the state of California, one of the most environmentally friendly governors in America, one who's doing the most to fight climate change, the one who will always lead with compassion, common sense, and by telling the truth and following the science. Someone I'm honored to call a friend, but more importantly, our governor, none other than Governor Gavin Newsom. Thank you, Governor, for being here today.
I know he wants something from me with that generous introduction. Thank you, Senator. That was very kind, and thank you for your comprehensive and thoughtful remarks. Madam Mayor, thank you for the privilege of being here and for the opportunity for all of us to join you here today to highlight an initiative that has been inspired by local leaders that recognize we need to do more and do better and disenthrall ourselves with the old ways of doing business as it relates to the issues of reliability, as it relates to the issues of access to clean, safe, affordable drinking water here, not just in this region, but in this state. I am, though, here in a state that is one of mind, not necessarily of geography, recognizing that we need to reconcile the fact that the aerification of the entire west coast of the United States is of such acuity that scientists have framed the challenges along these lines. Since 800 AD, we have never experienced, since 800 AD, we've never experienced in the west coast of the United States consecutive years, dry years, like we have experienced. 1,200 plus years, we're experiencing things we've never experienced. The conditions here in the state of California are not unique to the state of California. You're seeing these replicated all across the West, highlighted by the fact that this project, this demonstration project you see behind us, is being supported by other states. It was noted, supported by the state of Nevada, supported by the state of Arizona, recognizing that we're all in this together, recognizing that we're all putting straws into the same resources. The Colorado River is the case with those other two states. And obviously all of those competing, Northern California, not just here in Southern California, but in Central Valley for scarce water resources. So long-winded way of saying we have to do things differently. We have to do things better. And that's why we put out a master plan. A few years ago, we put out a comprehensive water portfolio plan with 142 specific actions. And as Senator Bradford just said, we didn't just put out a plan, but we started funding that plan in historic ways. $7.2 billion if the legislature approves this year's budget. $7.2 billion of general fund resources, not waiting for a bond to be approved by the voters, of general fund surplus to invest in addressing conditions that persist today in the acuity of the crisis, investing in medium-term strategies, and yes, investing in long-term solutions along the lines of which we are highlighting here today. Water recycling is about finding new water, not just accepting the scarcity mindset, being more resourceful in terms of our approach. This pilot project that has been in place for a number of years is now ready to go at scale. $4 billion investment, an investment that will pay profound dividends in terms of addressing the scarcity if it gets the funding and the support that it needs. The reason I am down here is the Met has been up in Sacramento making the case for this project over and over and over again. Again, not just for California, not just for Southern California, but for all Californians and for all Americans on the west coast of the United States. Success leaves clues. If they're successful scaling this water recycling project at the scale they're proposing. There'll have never been a project like this in U.S. history. And the opportunity to replicate the science and the work that's being done behind me and the work that we have in front of us will be realized for many other states. This is a profoundly important project for the state's future. It was said and highlighted that we have experienced the driest January, February, March, and mid-April in California's history. You knew that, but it can't be said enough. You also knew, and it has been said often, that you've done an amazing job. And I want to compliment and congratulate California. We entered into this drought, the third year of a drought, much better off than we entered in the drought of 2011 and 2012. 16% lower per capita water consumption as we entered into this drought. Californians have done an amazing job, and you need to be recognized. But we have to do more. We have to do a little bit better. And that's why we put out new tools in the toolkit and the SaveOurWater.com website. And I want to remind everybody, go to SaveOurWater.com. If for nothing else, save money. Save money by finding and detecting leaks. Save money by being a little bit more thoughtful about not just, turning on that dishwasher after a few dishes are put in, but after the full dishwasher. Same with full load of laundry. Just some common sense solutions. Nothing particularly punitive. Strategies for you to save money and to save water and to help us navigate through these challenging times. But in an effort to navigate even more comprehensively, California did something in March that is important for me to highlight today. We've been highlighting it, but I don't think we've broken through in terms of a broader consciousness. The state of California put forward, I wrote and signed an executive order on March 28th directing mandates of local mandates. Those local mandates will go into effect on June 10th, all across the state of California, in every part of the state. Some jurisdictions haven't waited. Yours, the Met, has not. Your mandates go into effect June 1st. I distinguish that and I highlight that for a reason. Last year, we submitted to the legislature a comprehensive document around lessons learned from the 2012 and 2016 drought. One of the critical lessons learned was one size does not fit all. Local agencies said, whatever we do going forward, don't do what you did in the past, and have a similar number and strategy for all of us in the state. Hydrology is unique and distinctive. Conditions are diversified, unique and distinctive. Water use and consumption patterns are unique and distinctive. In fact, you can turn to page 42 of that document and read the section highlighting this as one of the critical lessons learned from the last draft. That's why the draft we put out last Friday at the Department of Water Board and Water Resources, highlighted these level 2 contingency plans. If I haven't lost you, you're not paying attention. These level 2 plans are nothing more than local plans to reduce consumption, highlight conservation, up to 20%. Many have already initiated the plans. Not all had done that, and that's why I put out the executive order. The Water Board last Friday put out the rulemaking. They will act on it next Tuesday. It goes into effect next Tuesday. 400, this is an exact number, 400 of 436 water agencies have approved plans that they've either moved on or will be moving on. And the rest, which is about 8%, will have mandates thrust upon them because they did not submit plans by the state of California. 100% of this state will be under a mandate of local mandates for water conservation on June 10th of this year, just in a matter of weeks. Again, with flexibility and with the capacity for local agencies to go further, just as Met has gone further, moving the date for implementation and enforcement to June 1st, not waiting till June 10th, and recognizing at least for 6 million of their 19 million that they're serving, that they need to go a little further than 20% to 35% water conservation. So that's the flexibility that we're providing, but we're now scaling with a bottom-up, not top-down approach to a mandate of local mandates for water consumption up to 20%. We also will be codifying what was in the executive order through administrative action, ultimately goes to the Office of Administrative Law. And these are technical points, but they're important because process is important in this state. It's important to you as members of the public to have your voice heard. If those are adopted, we will also address the issue of decorative lawns, non-utilized infrastructure, or rather non-utilized landscape in business parks, other industrial uses, and we will establish a fine if there's an abuse of that. These are not fines to individuals, these are to corporations and industry specifically. We will also be putting out baseline expectations across the spectrum in this state of watering outdoors twice a week. The reason we do that is 80% of urban consumption continues to be outdoors, not indoors. And that's how we move the needle ultimately on water consumption. I'm mindful of where we were with the 18.9% increase in March. That was in March. These policies are going into effect in the next number of weeks, and those savings will be realized subsequently. And I'm confident that we will achieve these goals as we have done in the past in this state. And that's why I'm very proud again of the people of the state of California for their leadership, because people come around the world to find out what this state is doing in this space. And I assure you, many people will do that at a different level once we level and scale this demonstration project, as we intend to do with state support and local and regional support with water recycling, not just here with Met in Southern California, but as a best practice that we can scale all throughout the state of California. And so I'm very honored to be here. I'm grateful for the great leadership that's been demonstrated with this project. Look forward to investing more in innovation. And in closing, that $7.2 billion we put up includes a request of the legislature for $100 million in a new communication strategy. If you ask me why we have seen a stubborn increase in LA, San Diego, decrease in March in places like San Francisco, it's because we need to scale our communications. We had a modest $8 million budget on communications. We're requesting $100 million in a communication strategy that includes influencers, social media, not just traditional broadcast, a comprehensive plan to drive home conservation as a way of life, to support our $7.2 billion package and the master plan with 142 action items and programs and processes like those we're highlighting here today. With that, we're happy to take any questions.
And I'll take the first two questions, if I may. Governor Christina Pascucci here with KTLA. Number one, are Californians as a whole taking this drought seriously enough? And can you lay out once more the top restrictions you'll announce for water agencies that haven't created their own mandates and when those will go into effect?
June 10th, they go into effect. They'll be voted on next Tuesday, a week from today, on May 24th. The guidelines were put out last Friday. They're public in terms of what they specifically call for. I'll remind you, what they call for is not a one-size-fits-all approach to water conservation, quite the contrary. Recognizing the unique diversity of conditions, it asks some 450 or so agencies to utilize their level 2 plans, which were a requirement coming out of last drought, with a minimum expectation of 20% reduction in supply, allow flexibility to go further, but with minimum expectations in terms of that reduction and strategies to address unnecessary utilization of water along the lines that I noted with landscapes and industrial parks that are not utilized and the like. And so that's the framework, and will be voted on again on the 24th and codified and implemented for all state agencies, or rather local agencies, with that state mandate in place for those 8% that don't have level 2 plans on June 10th.
The first part of the question, if I may, was, are Californians as a whole taking this drought seriously enough? Because some reports said that water use has actually gone up since restrictions went into place.
Well, it's gone up in certain areas, it's gone down in other areas. When you're a size of 21 states combined, the answer is yes and no. San Francisco, again, parts of California showed a reduction in March consumption. Some showed an increase. Some showed a more modest increase. Some showed a significant increase. Look, you have the driest back-to-back-to-back months. I understand why people feel a little stressed about that, and the water consumption perhaps is a little higher. We're just hopeful, if you're like me, that, well, maybe tomorrow will rain or next week it will rain and we'll be out of this. And then you had a few intense storms and you say, boy, good, this is behind us, and you revert back to norm. Now I think people are in a different mindset as the water year is, in essence, over, and now we're realizing we have to do more and better. But I think many people are taking it very seriously. Others will have to take it a little more seriously when we implement these plans. And again, locally, those plans go into effect with enforcement on June 1st, and other parts of the state, all across the state, June 10th.
Thank you. Second question, citing the need for more water resources, you voiced support for building the Poseidon desalination plant that the Coastal Commission just unanimously voted against. What is your response to that vote?
Well, that's what I've responded on multiple occasions. I'll repeat my response, that it was a disappointing decision. That said, there are 142 action items in our master plan for water, our water portfolio. 2 of them were related to desalination. The 140 other actions were not inclusive of desal, including water recycling, finding new water along the lines we're finding here today. So we'll reinforce those other 140 actions, and we'll try to dust off on what I thought was a mistake by the Coastal Commission.
2 questions here. Juhidoshi with Politico. Number 1, if the drought is so bad, why not impose statewide water restrictions like your predecessor did?
This is an opportunity, I appreciate the opportunity to repeat what I just said, because it's really important. And I've been saying it, but it's interesting, and I understand it. There's a simplicity of one size fits all statewide. Governor Brown didn't have the benefit of lessons learned from the drought in 2012 to 2016. The water team that led us through that drought is the same team I inherited. When I came into office, they said one of the important things, Mr. Governor, is that we need to put out a plan reflecting on what worked and what didn't work as it relates to water, not only through the drought, but over the course of the last few decades. That's why we put this new master plan together with 142 actions, and that's why we put out an after-action report on lessons learned from the drought. And I encourage all of you to take a look. I just cited, and it's important. The reason I cited page 42 is I want to be as specific as I possibly can, not accused of platitudes. One of the principal recommendations was we have a diversity of need, diversity of consumption, diversity of resources. Hydrology is unique and distinctive in different parts of the state. When we go into a new drought, we want to provide flexibility at the local level. That's exactly what we have done. So the answer to the question is that's why. Number 2, and this is critically important, on June 10th, every part of the state will be covered with a mandate for local mandates that actually go further than the 15%, up to 20% in terms of reduction of supply. I noted that 400 of 436 agencies already have approved what we refer to as level 2 plans that move in that direction. Many have already implemented strategies, including the Met, as I noted. And they go into effect June 1st. The rest will go into effect, if approved next Tuesday, by June 10th. And that action comes from an executive order that I signed a few months ago in March. And so we are moving in that direction. We have already seen action at the local level, and it's an approach that's consistent with our lessons learned from the last drought and our water portfolio strategy.
And on a separate topic, what are your thoughts on a judge striking down California's law requiring more women to be appointed to corporate boards, and will the state plan to appeal that case?
I hope we appeal it. I haven't had a chance to talk to the Attorney General. I want to appeal to better corporate practices as well. It's beyond me why this shouldn't be happening on the natural. You look at some of the most successful companies in the world, not just in the state of California, the one thing in common, they practice what they preach. They value their values, and they value diversity and inclusion, and as a consequence, they have inclusive and diverse boards. Since that law was signed by my predecessor, Governor Brown, My wife's been a huge champion of it. She was the first to call me saying, you better appeal it. Over 2,000 women are on corporate boards since it was enacted. It's already had a profound impact. And it's also been replicated in other states. I think it's the right thing to do. It's beyond me that corporate leaders don't recognize that already. We still have work to do to be more inclusive as a society. And I'm proud that Governor Brown signed that bill, and I was disappointed that the judge threw it out. Thank you.
Governor Joy Rand from ABC7 here in Los Angeles. It sounds like this project would take at least a decade to complete, and that includes even finding the land for where it's going to go. And once complete, will serve about a sixth or a seventh of the population of LA County. Do you have to wait and see if this is a successful project to replicate it around the state? Because by that time, California and the country could look a lot different in terms of drought and water use.
It's the right question. It's a good question. Look, we hope to get this project working as early as 27, 28. So, 7, 8 years. We hope to be at scale fully around 2030, 32, ultimately at full scale. That's a fair question. But what's happened already is you have people descending, folks right behind you that are working on this. You can see one of the experts literally is a stone's throw behind you. You can ask her. People are coming. She's traveling around. People around the world are going, how's that project going? How's this technology proven itself? And people are now visiting this site, and they're already starting to look at best practices, and they're already starting to adopt strategies, small-scale projects, and demonstrations in their own jurisdictions. So no, I see this, as I said, success leaves clues. And this has been a successful program so far. We're hoping to get those final approvals and start scaling. And it's one of, again, hundreds of tools in this toolkit, strategies, 142 specific actions, but within those actions are different technologies, different strategies. This is one of many, but this is one of the most promising, and that's why we're here promoting it.
Is it something that can be replicated before this plant goes online, start building in other places?
Well, I hope so. I mean, a lot of this technology dates back to the 50s. Some of it we've imported from Israel. Some of the membrane technology has been out there, demonstrated for other purposes. Some of it, interestingly, the previous question, was used in desalinization. And so a lot of components of this are well established and utilized, and now we're just bringing it all together. I mean, ask Steve Jobs. That's why he was Steve Jobs. He just stacked other people's ideas and stacked them and created new strategy. I think this is equivalent. I won't call you the Apple computer of water recycling, but you're nor are you the Microsoft. So somewhere in between is innovation. And I think that's kind of stacking of technology, yes, can be replicated, and I hope is and should be. Thank you.
Hi, Governor. Christy Hutchings with the Daily Breeze. Thanks for taking our questions. I'll be the last one of the day. Back in December 2021, here in Carson, we had an 8.5 million gallon sewage spill that we recently found out was caused by corroded pipes and sewer covers. So I guess my question is, how important is it to ensure that the existing infrastructure for sewage and waterways that we have in the city and the county generally are up to date and able to handle all of the existing add-ons that we want to?
I can speak for the state. It's profoundly important, and that's why we're putting historic money in, not just new capital investments, but deferred maintenance. You should take a look just broadly. It goes to broader infrastructure, because I think that question could be replicated in many different facets as it relates to our aging and grain infrastructure. And that is the historic investments. We're putting $37 billion this year's budget in our infrastructure proposals that we'll be presenting to the legislature. I imagine they'll probably true those dollars up. But look, as a former mayor, deeply connected to our Southeast and San Francisco wastewater system, and an advocate for bonds, for improving the system and protecting and preserving existing infrastructure as we build technology off it. One should always be mindful of that. I can't speak to this specific incident, but looking from the state's perspective, that's very important, always to be mindful. And I appreciate that question.
Thank you.
Look, with that, I thank everybody for being here. Again, I hope folks just pause and reflect on two things. We're remarkably resilient. We're resourceful. We got through a 5-year drought, 2012, 2016. We'll get through this year, but it's going to require us to do things a little bit differently, to be a little bit more creative. And I just want to thank particularly all the local leaders for their creativity, The approach this year is different than the old administration. It's bottom up, not top down. State vision will be realized at the local level, local flexibility, local strategies, lessons learned from the previous drought, frankly, lessons learned from our approach to this pandemic as well, supporting with baseline expectations those local plans and scaling those plans and best practices all across this diverse state. June 10th, mandate of mandates will be in effect for all Californians. Thanks all for being here.
You're good.